In this section, we'll look at procedural shaders and how they can be used with image-based lighting. This will be accomplished through final gathering to light an outdoor scene using the legacy atmosphere shader. Here's our scene. It's kind of a deconstructed Alhambra in front of a pyramid, but for the most part we're going to be interested in a close-up section that's much smaller. What I'm going to do is I've got a dome and I'm going to apply to it the legacy atmosphere shader. It's an environment shader, but it can be attached directly also to a material surface. Let's take a look inside and see what it would look like from the inside the dome. And now we're inside one of the buildings that makes up the Alhambra, one of the gardens. And looking out, we can see that the area that of the dome that we're looking at, it has the atmosphere shader on it, and the shader is a planet simulator. It creates a sky that's filled with dust particles, and it has clouds and stars and a moon and a sun. Let's take a look at just a couple of the small options. In the atmospheric density, if we change the thickness or the density, we'll end up with a bluer sky. We can also mess with the clouds, the amplitude of the clouds and their height above ground. In this particular case, we want to make it look very much like it's the south of Spain somewhere, and there just really aren't a whole lot of clouds, so we'll get rid of that. Next, the stars. Now it's the daytime, so we really don't have a need for stars, but I did want to show that if we adjust the bias, then twinkly stars will emerge in our sky. We'll reduce it. Next, the moon. The moon is placed in the sky using inclination and azimuth. So what we need to do is we need to find the moon. The inclination is the height above the ground, where 0 is straight up over your head and 90 is at the horizon line. Azimuth is a 360-degree swing from north to east to south to west and back to north again. So we'll make a few adjustments until we find out where the moon and the sun are. So here we're seeing a halo around the moon, and it's being illuminated from the sun, which we can see is close to the horizon. That's going to be good enough for us. Now we could animate the moon coming and going, which would be pretty quick. Finally, the sun. If we animate the sun's inclination and azimuth, it can rise and set. When it rises and sets, the sky gets brighter. Finally, having set up the sky the way we want it, let's turn on final gathering and see what this effect will be. Now, for every sample of the Alhambra, many samples, well just 5 in this case, will be shot out into the surrounding world and lit from the environment atmosphere shader. Now we can see the tremendous results. We're seeing a lot more detail in the walls, and we're seeing beautiful coloration on the columns, and we're seeing nice soft shadows underneath the eaves of the roof, where the roofs occlude the wall from the sky. Very interesting shading. Let's look at it from a slightly different angle. Now, every change we make to the atmosphere shader, for instance, setting the sun or the moon up or down, is going to affect the lighting everywhere in the scene. So the lighting would go up and down, dawn, it would break inside of our scene, all just based on what's happening on the environment atmosphere shader. So for instance, now that we have a larger sun, if we turned on final gathering, we'd get a brighter result. Turn final gathering back on again and see how that looks. Let's increase the number of samples from 5, which was awfully low, to 30, which is still quite low. We'll get a much smoother result. This time we don't see as much noise underneath the eaves of the roof, and we get a smoother gradation of color on the columns in front of us. That's really all there is to it. you can use any shader to illuminate your scene. But in this case, since it's an outdoor scene, the environment shader makes a lot of sense. In this scene, we learned how to use the environment atmosphere shader in conjunction with Final Gathering to light an outdoor scene.